Smell us now, lady.
Welcome to MeatEater Trivia.
MeatEater Podcast.
Welcome to MeatEater Radio Live. It's 11 a.m. Mountain Time on Thursday, December 12th, and we are here live from MeatEater HQ in Bozeman, Montana. I'm your host, Randall Williams, and I'm joined today by Brody Henderson and Ryan Callahan. Did I get that right?
Nailed it.
On today's show, we're going to talk to our good friends Bubbly Doug Duren and Pat Durkin. We're going to dig into the photo archives for another Throwback Thursday. We're going to North Alabama for 1 Minute Fishing. We'll discuss our top 3 wild game and fish species for the table. And we're doing another highly anticipated installment of the MeatEater Movie Club, where we will be reviewing the 1978 film Buffalo Rider. Before we get into all that, I've got an important announcement. There are only a few more days left to be sure that any last-minute orders from the MeatEater, First Light, FHF, Phelps, and DSD stores arrive on time for Christmas. And in fact, a little birdie by the name of Corey Calkins told me that our 2025 Fucked Up Old Shitters calendars, that's the F'd Up Old Shitters calendars, will be back in stock tomorrow, December 13th. So get them before they are all gone or before a 2025 calendar is irrelevant. Brody, Cal, it's great to see you both. How are we doing today?
I don't know that calendars go irrelevant because I think most folks are just in them for the photos at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you often walk into a garage and see a calendar from 26 years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's usually, big bucks or pinup gals, not.
I was going to say the older they are, the more lewd they be.
If it's a good enough shitter, it could stand the test of time.
Exactly.
Well, joining us on the line first today, our friends of the program, Doug Duren and Pat Durkin, who are joining us on day 1 of Doug's Doe Derby in Wisconsin. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. It's great to see you both.
Hey,
highly visible, I see.
Standing out in the cold.
So
Morning.
what's going on with the Doe Derby there, Doug? Can you tell us what the Cazenovia Doe Derby is?
Well, we started the
Take
Doe
your
Derby
time,
a few
Doug.
years ago. I'm sorry?
I said take your time, Doug.
Is this thing on?
Yeah, it's a segment. You don't have the whole show.
So we started the Doe Derby a few years ago as a part of the 4-day antlerless hunt. And the idea is that we're encouraging people to reduce the population by taking antlerless deer, most of which will be does, of course. And then the other thing is that we're getting them, encouraging them to get them tested for CWD. If they bring their harvested doe, like 2 in a trailer or in our buggy over here that we got this morning, cut the head off, submit it for CWD testing. Inside this thing will be a couple of tickets that they'll fill out, and through the support of generous sponsors like MeatEater and Vortex and Can-Am and boy, there's just a whole list. We have a bunch of prizes that we give away. So we're incentivizing people to harvest and get tested for CWD. And then the other thing that we do is we have this party here on Saturday evening with my tall friend Pat Durkin will be a part of that. And it's just a place where hunters gather and we tell deer stories and kind of some of the old school stuff that Pat and I used to enjoy a lot more when we were kids.
Does Pat have all the prizes in those pockets on his vest? Like, I feel like
Pat
we'd do a whole
insisted that he got
segment
to be a
just
little
going
taller
through
than
Pat's
he is today.
pockets.
You said, I'm kind of surprised you guys haven't pointed out that for once in my life, I'm standing taller than Doug.
I figured it was just the angle of the camera, or is there a milk crate there?
No, you got.
Oh, yeah. Very nice. Well, how's the hunting been?
I mean, I got this idea by watching the NFL one year in a pregame. I walked down the field and saw Bob Costa sending out a box. And I thought, that's not a bad idea. So I figured when I stand next to Doug, I look like a little kid. So I thought today we'll change things up a little bit, make him look up at me.
I like it. So what is the deer count, and have you gotten any testing back yet, Doug?
Yeah, we're up to, depending on just on the farm and, the properties that I have here, we're at about 25. Unfortunately, the later ones that we got later in the season, we haven't gotten back yet. But the unfortunate part is the ones that we got early in this season, including a nice 4-year-old buck that I got tested positive. Brock, who's holding the camera here right now, shot a antlerless buck, and it was a 1.5 years old, I think, and a 2.5-year-old doe, and they both tested positive. My nephew Sam shot a 3.5-year-old buck and an older doe, and they tested positive. So we have 5 that have tested positive out of 11 that we've gotten back so far.
All right. And then are those your only doe derby submissions, the ones in the Can-Am there? Or have you had some more turned in?
Well, we've got, this year we expanded, so we have 5 different kiosks like this where people can enter.
Woohoo!
And the people who are running those kiosks are bringing the tickets up, and it's been really fun because people are more, there's just more opportunity and getting more people involved. I haven't counted them all up yet, but it looks like we're well over 250 so far.
Wow.
Very cool.
And this is just open to anyone who wants to participate in the area. Is that correct?
Right. Anybody who can legally transport a deer, because there's just all these CWD regulations that we're not going to talk about unless you really want to. But the CWD regulations, you have to kind of be adjacent. And of course, everybody is sort of adjacent now because of the way the disease has expanded. So folks can bring, they can bring the head. They can bring the whole carcass in if they want to. Some people have just brought the lymph nodes, and who's going to lie about something like that? So it's been gratifying to see this grow. I mean, Cal, you were here the first year, and we had I don't know, less than 100 submissions. I think around 50, and now we're approaching 300. So we're excited about that.
Well, that's the way these things have to start, because then everybody who participates wins something in the raffle, and word spreads really fast. The other thing, that meat processor that you have up the road, I mean, Mark Kenyon and I were going to come back just for the doe derby, just so I could have those guys make more bratwurst. That bratwurst is unbelievable.
Yeah, I'll testify. I did get to enjoy some of that bratwurst, and it is spectacular.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Yeah, we're actually enjoying some of those this weekend as well as a part of the party. So yeah.
Do you have any idea how many folks are going to be in attendance at the party?
I would say somewhere between 50 and 100. You don't have to be present to win, but I will tell anybody who's in the area who might come to the party Saturday evening. We'll start at about 5 until about 8. That we will have door prizes this year only for the people who actually come to the party.
Very
nice.
Cool.
Along with we have a Savage Axis rifle with a Vortex scope and a Chris crafted custom sling. Got a big Can-Am branded Yeti cooler. Seed from my friends at Hoxie Native Seed. Camp Chef has given us, as they have in previous years, a really nice 2-burner stove. Our friends at Decked sent us one of their cases to give away. Some really great prizes. Binoculars from Vortex. A full set of MeatEater books, all signed by Steve. And so those are some of the prizes for this first drawing. And then we'll have a virtual drawing at the first week of January when the entire season is over with. We have this 4-day season, and then bow hunting continues.
Yep.
And then there's a holiday hunt. So between December 14th, between the holidays, right? December 14th to January 1st, there's also another
24th. December 24th.
That's why I have Durkin here. He keeps me.
How
the
much
holiday
wood
season-
did Brock buck up for the festivities tonight?
We have a pretty good pile over there. We'll be all right. Nobody's gonna get cold. We'll be able to see the fire from a ways away. So, it's. I think we have brought back some of that enjoyment that people have of getting together. They don't mind standing out in the cold, and that's why we have a big fire, right? And people have really enjoyed coming to that. The participation has grown in the Doe Derby. And, there's a lot of discussion about what CWD is doing, what populations are doing, areas where people are worried that their population is being they're not just seeing sick deer and killing sick deer, but their population decline. That's pretty hard to point it in other directions other than chronic wasting disease.
Yeah, and you've created a safe place, if you will, for all these big, tough folks to come together and talk about killing does, which is something that's very important, and what they're going to do with the meat, and then have thoughtful discussions on CWD and what they're going to do with all the cool stuff they won. You're doing the Lord's work, Doug.
Well,
and it's great to see.
We're doing what we can where we're at with what we've got.
And it's great to see that you have the support of a bunch of different great brands in the industry behind this all.
Yeah, it really has been, and it's not been incredibly difficult to get people to step forward. We've had people come. First Light came forward and gave us a $500 gift certificate. For First Light, what a great thing that is, and just really, it's been great to see that support. And here we are standing in front of the kiosk where people where they come in and do the reporting and whatnot. I don't think they're not. Oh, there's one in there. There's two in there.
It's like the opposite of a live well.
Yeah. So Pat Durkin, you're not on the doe board yet?
Yeah, I got 2 on the board so far, and I tried to impress Doug, that I actually know how to remove the lymph nodes. So that's my contribution is in there, just in a little bag.
They look suspiciously like tonsils.
Yeah, he says that.
Now, is there any sign of our dear friend Chester Floyd at this gathering?
He will be here on Saturday. Yep, for the party. He's bringing his son, and he said, "I'd like to hunt, but I'll have a 2-year-old with me." I said, "I think I got a spot for you. I'll put him up there in that office I got up on the ridge,
Or one of Pat's pockets. I was going to say you might save that milk crate for Chester if we end up going back to you.
Very good.
Well, guys, it's great to see you, and congratulations on pulling together another great event, and best of luck to you in the woods out there.
Thanks, you guys.
All right. Thank you very much.
Couple solid folks there.
Oh, yeah.
It is time for Throwback Thursday, where we dig into the photo archives and take a trip down memory lane with some of the crew.
Throwback on a Thursday morn. Stephen Brody, take me back to 1974. Throwback, I can't believe it. Did I mention Stephen Brody, our old as shit?
Love it.
Oh, that's delightful, Phil. Thank you for that.
That's really good. That's really good, Phil. Oh, the memories.
Mm-hmm.
The memories.
Pull up the pictures here.
Yeah, let's get those pictures up.
I was personally shocked that people had digitized memories. I thought that was the whole point of going back and finding the Polaroids.
Well, the new memories.
Look at that cute dog. What's that dog?
That dog is named Jack, also known as Jack Bishkins. He, in that photo, God, he must have been maybe 2 years old. He lived to the ripe old age of 17.
Whoa!
And he turned into quite an asshole in his old age.
Speaking of being old, though, like you can tell that Randall is not old because this picture doesn't look old. It's like high quality, you know, like you were mentioning.
Yeah, this
Polaroids.
is the early days of digital cameras. I don't know how old I am in that photo. Maybe 19, 20. That's my first buck, first white-tailed deer buck. I'm sitting there in Kentucky, and I've got that. We're sitting in the bed of Black Thunder. It's a 1997 Ford Ranger with an orange racing stripe on the side of it. Just a great memory with a good dog, good
What
truck.
type of firearm?
That is a Marlin Model 1895 G guide gun, chambered in .45-70.
Oh, wild.
Yeah, I believe I was shooting a Remington Core-Locked, the 405 grain soft point, and
Effective range of about 100 yards.
Yeah, actually, this buck I shot him. He was actually locked up with a smaller buck, and
made that smaller buck's day.
yeah, I brought an end to their exciting festivities.
What'd that smaller buck do after you shot the big one?
It's
Did he
all,
gore him?
It's all a blur. It's all a blur. But I shot him out of a homemade little crotch seat made out of some leftover planks of wood and 2x4s.
Right, as in the crotch of the tree.
Crotch of the tree, indeed. And then the following year, I shot another 10-point out of that same crotch
Nice.
with that same rifle. So some of my early formative memories there.
Still got the rifle?
I don't. Big mistake on my part.
When I
Big
first
mistake
looked
on
at
my
this,
part.
I thought there was a cemetery as the backdrop.
That's what I thought
which I was
too.
excited to hear
No,
about.
it's an old well pump with like a crank handle at the Lewis family farm. Oh, here's another one. This is me in maybe 2010, 11 with a couple burbot at the end of a long summer working in Alaska, where I have obviously lost my mind.
Do they call them burbot in Alaska, or were there any other names for them?
The guys I was with called him burbot.
I think some people call them cusk up there.
Oh, yeah,
Maybe.
I've heard that.
I think so. They got so many different names.
Yes, these are just on set lines, and we ran around in the dark checking lines, and then came back and had a big old
Is it cusk or lusk? I forget what. Anyway.
burbot fry on my last night up there.
Cool.
So that's me and my Amish beard.
Yeah, I should bring that back.
Who's
Very
that
circular.
strapping young fellow?
That's the first iteration of the First Light suspenders, Cal.
Wool pants, wool union suit. That's a full one-piece union suit underneath, and then wool sweater. Yeah.
Classic.
Yep. And if the suspenders were turned the right way out, they have little skiers on them. But they are no more because they lost their elasticity a long time ago. But that's my first elk ever. Right there. Yep.
What? How old were you in that photo?
It was high school. Probably sophomore year, I would think.
You grew up in Montana, right?
Yep.
Did they not have an orange law back then?
They did. So this is like a manufactured photo.
Oh, I gotcha. A lot of people take the orange off for the photo.
Yeah, which is never something like I've made a point of. But I was out with my hunting mentor, my outfitter buddy, the guy I learned everything from, and my dad, and we were. It was like a paid hunt, so there were clients in camp, which was also like a father son, and it was just rainy, crappy, very typical Western Montana weather, dreary. Not a lot happening, and we hiked hard all week, and nothing was happening. And as we were packing up at the end of that week, the outfitter was like, "Pard, we got this. Why don't you take one more walk?" And so I did, and was in Hunter's Orange and had a totally different rifle than what's pictured here. If you look close, is a left-handed 7mm mag.
Yep.
You know, and you may know that I would have nothing to do with the 7mm mag.
I noticed the bolt
right
handle
or
there.
left-handed. And
Absence of one.
yeah, I'd walked in and looked down into this cut, and there was a cow and a calf feeding there, and was all by myself. First elk, was like, oh my God, this is really happening, and tried to talk myself out of it and all the things, and lay down and actually made a Texas heart shot on this cow as she was going out of sight. So shot her right at the base of the spine, and that bullet went in, kicked off her spine, and went down through her heart and out her chest.
Textbook.
Yep, didn't hit a stitch of meat. It was like the most crazy shot ever. But, you know, as, you know, really just a kid, cow had a calf. I was like, oh my God, somebody else could get this calf. And so I ran back to camp and was able to take the other father and son in there, and they shot the son of the two shot the calf, and so they got to go home with some meat. And yeah, it was a, you know, kind of a conflicting young man experience, right? Of like cow and a calf and all, you know, but first elk, yeah. And then they were like, you got to get a picture of that thing. That's an antelope.
Another mustacheless photo. I did see someone in the chat. There was some question about when you started growing out your mustache, and then some question about when you started losing your hair. So because of the hat in the previous photo. So here, clearly, you do have a full, healthy head.
Yeah, I rocked a lot of hair during the height. But, you know, I think it was always on the way out. It was fleeting. But I made up for it in the volume that I could grow around the deep pits. Yeah. I don't even remember what happened here with this antelope, but that's Ruger M77 and 280 and all that.
I had that rifle. It's a good rifle.
It is a good rifle, yeah.
Did that have the paddle stock?
Yes, it did, yeah.
The Zytel, yeah.
Yeah, the full weatherized stainless steel. Yeah. I cannot remember. I think my dad must have killed this buck. I was guiding at this point, and Dad came out to camp, so I was guiding for the old outfitter. And yeah, Dad. Those are the photos we used to take back then. Primary focus was on getting things gutted fast. And that is still my biggest whitetail buck to date. This is, other than antelope, this is the only shoulder mount animal that I have. And Randall has actually got to see this shoulder mount in person because it's hanging in my buddy's cabin in Augusta.
It's impressive.
Yep.
Oh, there he is. I only sent Phil one picture. I didn't know we were supposed to send multiples in. But anyway, that's me. When I was probably 10 or 11. That's northwestern Pennsylvania on Elk Creek, which is a Lake Erie tributary. And back when I was that age, those Lake Erie streams used to have a artificial man-made run of cohos, chinook, and steelhead. So you'd get all three in the streams in the fall for a short period of time anyway, when it started raining in the fall. And that's me working over a steelhead with a Zebco reel, probably a Zebco rod reel combo.
Just putting the wood to him.
Yep. I landed that thing, and that was like the first big fish I ever landed.
It looks like you have over boots on.
I do. What they used to call this thing? Galoshes?
Galoshes,
yeah. Man. No waders. My dad was a cheapskate back then. So yeah, it's like you go in as deep as those boots and no deeper or you're getting wet. But they're like, those streams are weird because they're all shale bottom streams. So it's like a lot of it's shallow and then there's like one deep. So you could...
And so they'll run up and sit in that bucket.
Yep. So yeah, man, I've always loved that picture because I'm really reefing on that fish and I landed it. was good times back then.
Yeah, and whoever colorized it after the fact from the original black and white did a really nice job.
Yeah.
Had to get one of those in.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's it for Throwback Thursday. Our next segment is 1 Minute Fishing.
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Go ahead. Make my cast.
1 Minute Fishing is where we go live to someone who's fishing and they have 1 minute to catch a fish. And if they're successful, we'll make a $500 donation to a conservation group. This week, our angler is Kyle Leibarger, who's at Wheeler Lake on the Tennessee River in Alabama, fishing for crappie. Kyle is the founder of the Native Habitat Project, and today he is fishing for a donation to Conservation Fisheries, Inc., a Knoxville, Tennessee-based nonprofit dedicated to conserving the unique aquatic ecosystems of the Southeast. Kyle, welcome to the show.
How's it going?
We're doing very well, sir. Welcome to 1 Minute Fishing. Have you been fishing? Have you pre-fished this spot this morning?
Yeah, I have. I've caught about 8 or 9 keeper crappie and probably 20, 25 in total this morning. So.
Oh, this is promising.
Oh, this sounds like a very promising start. We've been on a bit of a dry spell here, and I think that's understating it. So we're eager to have someone in the hot seat there who knows what they're doing.
Well, this pile, it's a treetop, and this thing, every time I come up to it, and I catch one of my first casts usually. So I haven't messed with it in like 2 hours. So I'm hoping there's some crappie on it. So.
Oh, that's dedication. I love it. What's your rig there? What are you fishing with today?
I got I just got a little spinning reel. It's a Fluger and a Fenwick rod, and I got live minnows.
Classy.
So, yeah.
Live minnows, you said?
Yeah. Yeah. So
kind of cheating. I mean.
Yeah, toughies. Yeah. Well, I have pet fish at home in my pond behind my house. And so if I really wanted to cheat, I could have caught some of those. So
this seems like a good earnest effort. It looks like you're out there getting after it. So,
yeah.
Well, your timer and your 1 minute will begin whenever you make your first cast. So whenever you're ready, Kyle, take a shot.
All right, let's try.
And the timer is going.
So is it on a jig head?
I have a little split shot about 6 or 8 inches up. So that's the way I
And just free lining it?
Yeah. Sometimes I'll use a bobber, but I usually free line.
Looks like a beautiful piece of water there.
Yeah. This is Flint Creek, so we manage a little grassland at the boat ramp here. That the state lets us manage, but
20 seconds.
20 seconds on the clock here.
Pressure's on.
Mm-hmm.
Would not want to be you right now.
10 seconds left here. 5 seconds. And time is up.
Time.
I think you just got to go with the rip and hook set
Look.
just to see. Oh, look at that.
Oh.
Look, does that count?
God, it's the old stick fish.
Look. I mean, there is a fish on it, but
He's got a point. There's no arguing with that.
Well, Kyle, I think next time we need to get you out there for your first cast of the day. It sounds like you have a pretty good track record when you first get in there.
Yeah. It's I think y'all need to change it to like 90 seconds or something.
We'll put that one past Steve, but he seems pretty firmly committed to this bit.
Yeah.
So,
how many have caught in 60 seconds so far?
Pat Durkin did. Giannis did, but that was a special circumstance.
Yeah, maybe we should have a meeting about this offline and rethink the segment. But Kyle, I think you've raised some very valid points here.
I'm just trying to make myself feel better. So,
well, we appreciate you getting out on the water for us and showing us your spot there. And good luck with the rest of your day.
Yeah, appreciate y'all giving me a chance. So, have a good one.
All righty, we'll see you again here.
I did like. I saw one comment in there where somebody's asking for current fishing conditions on Henry's Lake, Idaho. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's the kind of community we need.
Just
okay?
throwing it out into the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows what the show will become in a year? It could just be, you know.
Oh, yeah, just a live fishing report.
Exactly. Yeah.
Phil, why don't we take a little break here, get some listener feedback. What's happening in the chat?
Let's do it. Let's start off with a breezy one. I don't know if how people decorate their homes for Christmas, if anybody. But Aaron's asking who at MeatEater has the most festive house.
I know Phil put up lights.
I do. I've got a very basic icicle light set up with a wreath on the door. Nothing fancy. I've also got a 1-story house, so I can't go too crazy. But yeah, do you guys decorate the exterior of your homes? Or
we have one
the
string
interior?
of lights on our porch. We're definitely like in our neighborhood. We're like the lame house,
Scrooge house.
Yeah,
yeah.
Phil, are you going to play coy? Or are you going to let people know you've seen the inside of my house?
Well, Randall, I happen to know that you have quite a tree in your living room.
We do have a big honking tree.
You do. It's very impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather have the lame house from the outside, but if you come in, there's going to be a cold beer and something good to eat.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, it's not one or the other. You can have it all, Cal.
Not with the timeline I have.
Have you seen Cal's garage? He doesn't have any room for store
Yeah.
Christmas lights and ornaments in the off season.
Might need to hang some new shelves from the ceiling there.
I'm curious to know the answer to this question. Eric is asking the longest you've gone without punching a tag. He says this is his 2nd year in a row. Have you guys had this? Speaking of dry spells.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've definitely been there.
I don't have enough self-restraint to not punch tags. It's been a while since I haven't killed anything. I will say I went my first 6 or 7 years of elk hunting without shooting an elk. And I was on a little streak there, 7 years in a row with bulls, and this year it
came to an end.
You were way ahead of the odds, so you can't be too unhappy about that.
Oh, I'm pretty unhappy, Brody, actually. I figure I don't have that many good elk hunting years left, with my declining health.
Wait, what?
So I'm like, when am I I'll never get to 8?
You're already planning, like, for your
I don't know.
physical just debilitation to the point where you can't?
Keep after it, Eric. I mean, it'll straighten itself out. But the thing is like, man, there are no days of failure in the woods. Like, if you're out there, if you're not killing, you're still learning a lot more than somebody who's not out there.
Oh, yeah. And I will say, too, a couple of those, like, I can think of one bull in particular. We're about to pack up, and we said, before we take the teepee down, let's just go for a little walk. We're out here. We might as well put another 15 minutes in. And I shot that bull like 15 yards outside of the teepee. I got out there, put my backpack on, took it off, and shot that thing. It was just across the canyon. So it can happen at any time,
also,
so don't
Eric,
get discouraged.
The more tags you have, the better your chances are.
That's true. We're pretty spoiled here.
Yeah.
You got all kinds of seasons to hunt.
Yeah, it's a little different, like, when you live in a state where you may only have a chance at, like, a deer.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler is asking a question for Cal. Phil, can you ask Cal why no conservation organization right now is dedicated to pronghorn? He could be incorrect. I don't know, so I'm coming to you, Cal.
Well, I mean, there's a ton of overlap in that space. As with everything, habitat is king. Habitat and connectivity, and so you have like a bunch of groups working on a new bill that would incentivize the preservation, conservation, and reestablishment of grassland ecosystems in North America, which we're losing at an incredibly alarming rate. Everybody should be very concerned about this. They may announce the monarch butterfly being put on the endangered species list. That is, like, if we can save the monarch butterfly, we're going to be kicking ass for pronghorn. So I know there's some folks interested in starting up a antelope pronghorn specific organization. but don't feel like that work isn't being done. So,
I do believe there is a group that has recently incorporated, and they're kind of bootstrapping it and looking for funders.
Yeah,
but I don't know that much about it currently.
I mean, MDF, Mule Deer Foundation, Sage Grouse Initiative, like there's antelope are benefiting, like Cal said, from the work of other organizations. So
I mean, even like RMEF, like Migration Corridor Protection, that
migration initiative that focuses on that Hoback to Red Desert migration, like the antelope use that same migration corridor. So,
but I will say, antelope are cool critters,
incredibly cool,
tasty critters,
and they're definitely places where their numbers are falling,
and very fun to hunt. And so it would be great if a pronghorn specific group could take off and.
Yeah, or if some of these other orgs were willing to like really get some dedicated funding in that space, because there is some really unbelievable inconsistency on how those animals are managed at the state level. But there are some federal and state dollars available for like animal friendly fencing that definitely need more help too. So.
Cool. Jarrett is asking, he has a neighbor who raises breeder bucks and does. How will that affect his hunting? He can see the high fence from his blind. Do you have any theories or firsthand experience with this?
I got some. We used to guide on a ranch in Colorado, and the neighboring ranch was a high fence elk operation. And all the bugling that would come off that high fence place could be helpful on the other side of the fence.
Yeah, I would think if a bunch of those does are going into estrus and they're essentially chained up at the neighbor's place, that's some good scent attraction.
Yeah, but you might want to, going back to Doug and Pat, you also might want to look into the whole CWD
get
thing.
your deer tested.
Yeah, hopefully there's an exterior fence around the interior fence, and ways of preventing any nose-to-nose contact, because those operations are inevitably a CWD hotspot on the map.
I would be interested to learn what your experiences are, Jarrett, with that, because I think it would be just sort of a novel scenario to watch play out during the rut.
Yeah, cool. And we'll do one more for this little segment here.
Fantastic.
John is asking how he can convince his girlfriend to allow him to put a shoulder mount in the bedroom.
Good luck. It hasn't worked for me yet.
Yeah, pick your battles, I think.
Are we talking like a pronghorn shoulder mount or
moose?
A moose, 6-point bull elk, right?
Yeah.
Like, how tall are your ceilings?
How big is the bedroom? How important is it for you to put a shoulder mount in the bedroom? I feel like I have pretty free reign of the house when it comes to stacking skulls and bear rugs and
eventually
that, sort of
that might end, though. You reach a saturation point.
We're at the saturation point, but I've never it's never really come to a point where I felt compelled to hang one in the bedroom.
There's too many unanswered questions here. Like, is this the only thing this guy would have in his house, or does he already have a bunch?
Yeah, is the bedroom the only place without a shoulder mount?
Plus, if you guys are still boyfriend, girlfriend, just do it.
Yeah, you'll find out if you're going to get married or not.
And that's our segment of Cal's relationship advice. Just test boundaries.
Great new segment.
All righty. Now it's time for another round of Top 3.
Top 3. Top 3. I will
Wow, Phil hitting the high notes there.
That was incredible. I will say, for a little behind-the-scenes look at how things go here, I was in this studio bright and early, and Phil came in and he said, "Can you please leave? I need to record a drop." And I said, "Sure." I said, would you like me to put a do not disturb sign on the door? To which he replied, yes, this might be the most embarrassing thing I've ever done.
And what do you think?
I think you're perfectly. I mean, you didn't have time to auto-tune that.
No, that song really shows you the limits of your singing abilities. Let me tell you,
that's straight from the pipes. I'd take that as that gets my stamp of approval, Phil.
Great, thank you.
Boy, Thursday is my favorite. This week we'll be ranking our preferred species of fish and game for the table. We're talking the critters that you're reaching for if they're in the freezer. Brody, we'll start with you. What's your number 3 choice?
Am I doing all 3 or just my third choice?
Let's go in row. Let's go your third, Cal's third, my third, your second, Cal's second, my second.
Okay.
And then we'll continue that pattern.
But I am going to say that I think that this is one of those like tough and almost kind of meaningless ranking systems because I like all kinds of wild fish and game, and it's kind of like based on the time of year. Like, I don't have any wild turkey breasts in my freezer right now, so like if I had some, that would be my favorite thing to eat. Just putting that.
I was gonna expect that from Cal.
Yeah, it totally changes.
You disagree with
year.
Yeah, I think in the spirit of this segment, if it's in the freezer, and you think I have X, Y, or Z in the freezer. Like which one are you most commonly going to reach for? If it's
I don't know that it's a common thing either, right? It's like it might be you only have a little bit of it.
Exactly.
Brody, what's your number 3 choice?
I'm just saying, it's like there's a lot to think about here, Randall. I'll say king salmon because I only got a little bit of that stuff left right now, and it's like. If you've had the different kinds of Pacific salmon, there's like no question that an ocean caught king is the best of them. Fatty, delicious.
You're not a sockeye guy?
No, man. King's like bigger and better, and it's a cooler fish. So everything about it's good.
Cal, what's your number 3?
Elk.
Care to elaborate on the reason behind your choice?
Elk is a fine meat, but I don't find elk to be very flavorful at this point in my life.
There's a lot of variability too, man. Like
a lot of variability.
You shoot an old cow, you might break a tooth on that thing.
Or it could be super tender.
Or it could be super tender.
That cow in the picture, you literally pulled her ivories out, what was left of them, with your fingers. Like they fell out. Super old cow, and she was delicious.
Yep.
But like I have a bowl in the freezer right now, and the tenderloin was like, this is going to take a while.
Yep. I feel like the safest bet is to shoot a young raghorn bull because then you know it's not old.
Yeah. Timing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as early as possible or as late as possible. Yeah.
Well, I went for elk as well. And the reasons for that are versatility and quantity. There's a lot of, especially with all that ground and sausage, there's a lot you can do with it. And so it's kind of just our go-to. And it's also our go-to because there's a lot of it for every elk you kill.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Brody, what's your number 2 here?
Oh, I'd probably go with some white meat game bird like blue grouse. I'd go with wild turkey just because you get more of it. I don't know. No, I'm going with blue grouse. It's better than wild turkey.
Blue grouse is fantastic.
What are you doing with that? Typically,
all different kinds of stuff, man. Like you can't beat just like. I like to save the legs from all my game birds and then do something with those.
Mm-hmm.
But like the breast from a blue grouse pounded out, just battered and fried on a sandwich is hard to beat.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yep.
Cal, number 2.
I say mule deer. Because I'm I really, for whatever reason, don't find, even trying to kill big old bucks, like I don't find them chewy, and they have more flavor than elk. So I'd prefer mule deer over elk.
Big mule deer.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
That are living the life a mule deer should.
The good life.
Far away from agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
I went with salmon for my number 2, and I couldn't decide between sockeye or king, so I just went with the generic salmon. But I like sockeye if it's just going on the grill, but I feel like king is maybe a little more versatile. Like for a chowder, you have all that extra fat in there.
Oh, slicing it up and eating it raw, too.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I love it. I love having a big pile of salmon in the freezer.
Mm-hmm.
And for your number 1 selection, Brody.
Well, I got a shitload of moose in the freezer right now, so that's my favorite. But actually, I think out of the different cervid species, moose has and this is going to sound weird. Some people be like, no way, but I think it's it has a beefier flavor than other deer species. It's noticeable, and it's you take a bite of that stuff, and it's that's good meat.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I'm glad I got a lot of it right now.
Yeah, you'll be enjoying that one for a while.
Ducks, mallard ducks, or mallard, widgeon, gadwall,
Fatty
pintails.
duck.
Yeah, something with fat. Yep. That is my. Are you familiar with this girl dinner phenomenon? That was, that's my girl dinner.
So Cal and Snort on the couch, with a rom-com on,
and just eat a whole fatty duck with nothing but
fingers.
salt on it. Yep.
Yep.
Oh, I love it. So good.
Throw it on the grill with a big fireball that maybe comes close to burning down your friend's house on the 4th of July.
Yep. That type of duck.
Piece of bread to sop up that fat with.
Yeah, salt, fat, protein, medium rare, blood all around.
Yep.
That speaks to a person.
Hard to beat.
Yep.
I was surprised. My number 1 choice is antelope. Man, if I get an antelope in the freezer, or in some years multiple antelope in the freezer, that stuff just goes so quickly because it's simple. Sear it, cook it rare, salt, and you don't need much else because it's just got so much flavor on its own.
Yep.
So I thought this was going to be more of a boring segment because we'd be on the same page, but I like that we got a little bit of variety here.
Well, yeah, I do side with Brody here. It's some seasons of plenty in one protein department.
Mm-hmm.
It was 2 years ago, I had 2 big chunks of bluefin tuna.
Mm-hmm.
And holy shit, man.
I thought there was another way to approach this where it was, what's one wild fish or game species that's been in your freezer once that you'd like to see back in there?
Yeah. Muskox loin is, I think, unique and really, really fantastic.
Yeah, bighorn sheep, fatty, delicious.
Yep. Hard to acquire.
Yeah. Hard to acquire.
Yes.
Yeah. I'd go with mountain lion.
Mountain lion's fantastic.
If I could shoot a mountain lion every year instead of a deer, I'd probably do that just for variety.
Yeah.
Yeah, variety's the key, man. You can get sick of anything. You gotta have the best elk in the world, but if you're eating it every day, you're gonna get sick of it eventually.
Yeah, like you, I had a long stretch of being up to my ears in elk meat, and not hunting elk for a few seasons. I haven't been missing elk in the freezer, So.
Well, thanks for playing along, gents. We'll come up with a more compelling, clear-cut prompt for our next top 3 segment.
Yeah, always room to improve,
Our next segment is MeatEater Movie Club.
Oh. Love what you did there, Phil.
It's a menagerie.
The 1978, or perhaps 1976, I found a few discrepancies in various sources for when this film was released. The 1978 film Buffalo Rider, directed by John Fabian, Dick Robinson, and George Loris, stars stuntman Rick Gwynn as Jake Buffalo Jones, a frontiersman who tames an American bison and uses it as his primary mode of transportation while battling both natural elements and human adversaries. The film's plot follows Jones, the rider, and his companion Samson, the buffalo, through a series of increasingly outlandish adventures across the frontier, Their primary antagonist is the ruthless market hunter Frank Nesbitt, who, the narrator tells us, quote, loves the killing, and his unsavory gang of hide skinners, Ralph Pierce and Ted Claiborne, who serve as the film's central villains. While most peculiar to a contemporary audience, Buffalo Rider's unconventional construction, a rough cobbling together of pre-existing wildlife footage, staged scenes, buffalo riding stunts, and excessive narration, is representative of the low-budget exploitation filmmaking of the 1970s. This genre emphasized shocking violence, lurid sexuality, and unusual spectacle to draw audiences away from the production values and narrative coherence of mainstream Hollywood cinema. Beyond a simple representative example of this particular style, however, Buffalo Rider serves as a rich text that emerged from and reflected the specific historical conditions of its creation. Its chaotic, almost anarchic production reflects, no doubt unintentionally, America's fractured cultural landscape in the 1970s. This was an era of profound disillusionment in American life. The Watergate scandal had shattered public faith in authority and established institutions. The Vietnam War had ended in humiliation, and economic stagflation was eroding middle-class stability. In 1979, only 1 year after the release of Buffalo Rider, President Carter would deliver his famous crisis of confidence speech, diagnosing a nation that had lost its sense of purpose and direction. In many respects, the confusing structure and seemingly arbitrary narrative choices of Buffalo Rider embody the fraying coherence that Americans in the late 1970s saw all around them. Perhaps most obviously, the film's technical shortcomings, its rough editing, inconsistent tone, and apparent lack of quality control reflect the decade's material constraints. Likewise, the prevalent drug culture of the decade might help explain some of the film's more bizarre creative decisions. The inexplicable genre hopping between wildlife documentary and Western adventure, the replacement of dialogue with unceasing descriptive narration, and sequences like the Buffalo in a Saloon shootout suggest a production process operating on its own, might I suggest, chemically altered logic. Perhaps most poignantly, much like the nascent environmental movement of the 1970s, which struggled to reconcile ecological concern with embedded practices and market forces, Buffalo Rider's environmental message, while sincere, is undermined by its own contradictions. Just as the villainized hide hunters within it, the narrative exploit wildlife for profit, the filmmakers themselves commodify animal violence for monetized entertainment value. As the film's catchy theme song rolls over the end credits, the viewer can't help but wrestle with an unresolvable tension between our hero's guiding ethos and the commercial imperatives of artistic production in capitalist society. Viewed through this lens, Buffalo Rider becomes more than just a badly made movie. It serves as an inadvertent cultural artifact capturing the disorientation of American life in the late 1970s. Its very incoherence tells us something about a moment when American society itself seemed to be coming apart at the seams, when the old certainties of post-war prosperity and progress were dissolving and new truths had yet to emerge. I give it a 10 out of 10. And for your viewing pleasure, I am pleased to share one of the YouTube clips that gave this film something of a renaissance in recent years. We're going to watch a brief excerpt from episode 2 of Guy on a Buffalo by the band Jomo and the Possum Posse out of Austin, Texas. Please, Phil, take it away.
One day the guy on the buffalo hopped off to stretch his legs, walking the field. Hey, what's this in the weeds? It's a baby. Awesome. He put it in a saddle, hopped on, humped it up a hill and across the plain. Tried to cross a river. Not gonna happen, man. You're riding on a buffalo, member, but keep the baby afloat. Get your guy on the buffalo. Gotta find your friend. She's buried. Guy on a buffalo. Hey, you want this baby? It's cheaper than adoption. Guy on a buffalo. You're welcome, lady. Gotta move it on my buffalo. Guy on a buffalo. One day the guy on the buffalo walked off to do
so good.
It is so good.
No, don't do it, man, by yourself.
Better than the movie, in fact.
Well, the thing is this is how the movie is narrated. It's like, and now he's doing this and this and this. Oh,
That's what's striking to me.
About the time the guy got ready to shoot, he straight up got mauled by a cougar. Where's my buffalo?
Okay, this scene where he shows the scars on his back, it's like, what?
Hey, guy on a buffalo, you're gonna have to just punch that cougar in the face. Get out of here, kitty cat, bitch.
Get out of here.
And hey, wolf, I got something for you, kid from buffalo.
So there's the animal violence.
Yeah.
Multiple times in this show. These
Thank you,
dogs
Phil.
definitely get kicked by a buffalo.
Thank you, Phil. So I do have a bit of research that I'm tickled to share with you. As a bit of a prelude to our discussion, I found an article that was published by the Canadian Broadcasting Company, as Mr. Gwynn, who plays Jake Jones, is an Albertan. So the film was filmed in Utah and Oregon, and the lead actor, Rick Gwynn, was working for a company that supplied animals for film productions. He was in Missouri to purchase some mules, and someone offered to sell him a buffalo as well. He decided to try to tame it so that he could ride it, and he was successful in doing so. And then some filmmakers saw him do that and said, "Do you want to star in a movie about a man who rides a buffalo?" So that's how we got this film.
Sounds about right.
Many of the scenes were unscripted, and they simply captured what happens when a man is on top of a buffalo. According to Gwynn, quote, "They're still a wild animal, and they feel a little different. They're a little more stubborn and not as smart as a horse, it seems." His fall off Samson in the film was, in fact, a real fall that resulted in injuries to
Nobody
his
was
ankles.
questioning that.
My favorite detail, the mountain lion attack in the film was, in fact, a mountain lion attack. The lion was being filmed on the same property for a different production. When it escaped that production, ran onto the set of Buffalo Rider and attacked Mr. Gwynn.
But it wasn't a wild mountain lion.
It attacked him. It was being filmed for like a nature show, and so it attacked him. The cameras just happened to be rolling as he was filming a hunting scene.
I love it so much.
According to Gwynn, quote, "I had to kind of fight him off. It was a life or death situation. I kind of had to do something real quick. We had lots of shots like that were just built into the movie that were accidents. Just changed the script a little bit and continued on."
But that mountain lion obviously didn't have full...
But when they showed his injuries, those were real injuries.
Yeah, but they were... And
that was a real lion punch.
Had it been a real lion, or a fully intact lion, the injuries would have been
the fact that they said it
substantial.
escaped production.
Yeah, the fact that
you guys are not.
Listen, I think it's amazing.
You're not enthralled by the idea that lion attack was totally.
Listen, I
unscripted?
have to point something else out here. The fact that buffalo comes out of Missouri is very telling, because you can tell that thing has a lot of beef cow.
Oh
in it.
yeah, for sure.
Yes.
So just general thoughts on the film.
It's a beefalo.
It held my attention for less time than your review of the film did, and then I went back to cleaning guns.
Oh, I think you're crazy, man. Listen, I would watch this over Escanaba in the Moonlight.
Yeah.
9 out of 10. Absolutely. I loved if you're, old enough to remember like the old, the big long run of Disney movies, right?
Yeah.
This is like right in that genre. And then, it has all this like very gratuitous, like, nature document. What was that guy's name? Who
Grizzly Adams?
No, the nature guy who they found out like a lot of the animals in the nature documentary.
What was his name?
Yeah. Anyway, it was.
Yeah, I know who you're
he'd
talking
be like
about.
synonymous with nature for a long time. But anyway, I mean, and just crazy departures and
Bandit the raccoon.
To me, it's hilarious because there's like some filmmaking 101, right? Where it's like, well, if you're going to talk about it, you have to show it.
Yeah.
And it's be like, so then he got on the track and it looked like that of a mule track. And it's like, oh, there's Jake on the track.
Except I liked the part in the film where they mentioned a character who never appears on stream. He's like, he talked to the sheriff, and the sheriff said it was okay, so he went on.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of filling in of gaps with the narration because otherwise there would just be no story. Right?
And it's just constant narration, which is bizarre in a way.
There is a saying in showbiz, it's show don't tell. And they took that axiom and flipped it on its head. And it's like, we're actually just going to tell you things that are happening that you won't see happen.
Yeah.
The scenery was great.
Scenery was great.
Strongest part of the movie.
there's
I mean, they
wildlife
knew so well that the actors weren't going to carry any part of this. That it's like just lean on the scenery, the narration, and the animals.
Oh, the line delivery was insane.
What I want to know is like the people who made this movie. Was it made? Were they serious about like this is like a movie, or were they just fucking around?
I believe they were.
I think the messing around came before it was an actual movie, and then somebody was like, "Yeah, we're going to pay for this." They're like, "Oh God."
There was a quote from Rick Gwynn that it was essentially just like meant to be a fun, silly family wildlife movie with a bit of adventure. So I don't think it was like done as a parody,
right?
But yeah, I mean, like it's just like a fever dream. Like at one point they go with the raccoon, they follow the raccoon, and the lion tries to drown it, but then the lion is in the cold, deep water and it can't drown it, so the raccoon gets away and then rides an ice
flow.
Yeah, rides an ice flow down the river.
And he thinks long and hard before he comes near that river again.
Yeah. Oh,
on to the next scene.
Phenomenal.
The pioneer lady, her acting. I mean, they make the decision to stick with her long, so you can see her like emotional wind up to her line, but they show all of that. I mean, it's really amazing.
It's like it seems like so weird and such an outlier now, 50 years later or whatever. But really, it's not that unusual for the 70s. They made a lot of weird movies in the 70s.
Oh, go back and watch Easy Rider. You're like,
Rancho Deluxe.
Rancho Deluxe.
Like in the raccoon scene in this film reminded me of the like 10-minute sex scene in the middle of Rancho Deluxe. And you're like, why did they do this? Were they just filming time? It didn't need to be in this movie. But
no.
Sidney had a theory that the raccoon was important because when Buffalo Jones returned the infant to the ranch, that the raccoon would have to nurse the baby to health, because they made a big point to say that it was a female raccoon, to everyone's surprise.
Yeah, that was the big reveal.
But he got cobbler and stew or something. I mean, it was just...
Yeah, I would watch this, folks, at home.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this is going to surprise you. It's great. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you're probably numbing your mind with on Netflix. Check this one out.
And I will say, the beginning of it, when they're outlining the historical context, is pretty solid.
I was going to ask you, like, historically, you're the man, right? So how accurate is what they were...
I mean, Buffalo Jones is a real person whose life in no way resembles
I'm saying, like,
Buffalo
the way
Jones in the movie.
The whole thing was depicted.
Well,
like,
I thought it was
set
interesting.
up for the conflict in the movie.
Well, I mean, these guys had one pack animal and they were hide hunters, so they wouldn't have gotten very far. Typically, I think they would have operated with a few wagons. But the way that they hunted them, like when he's talking about shooting the lead cow and then shooting the whole herd, I mean, a lot of that stuff is straight out of like the sources that you read.
Right.
And the stand hunting, like going up and getting, sneaking up on a herd, getting down prone. He even had the shooting sticks at one point.
Yeah,
like that's something.
So they did some solid research
and laying out the cartridges.
Yeah,
that all seemed.
And the guys
legit.
the narrator's like, then they got the sharps, the big 50 sharps, and they were shooting them. I forget. I think he said
set out to 650.
Yeah, I don't know how accurate that is, but from the beginning of it, I was like, man, if this was like a documentary or something produced for high schoolers, like this would be pretty informative.
That's exactly what it reminded me of. Like I'm just old enough to remember like the substitute teacher comes in and rents out like an old VHS from the AV department and puts it on. And
Mr. Jones has a fever. And so I'm going to just play this film for you to continue our lesson on the West and the destruction of the bison.
Yeah. I said this earlier, but I do think Steve would take issue with demonizing the buffalo hunters.
Oh, yeah. I like,
which is not an uncommon thing in movies. Like,
sure, and I did like that they were just like basically 13-year-olds who got into wrestling matches at the drop of a hat. But the one guy did have a conscience. He did say at some point, he killed the woman. Oh shoot, you didn't have to do that. And then he says, killing women ain't good. Killing women ain't no good. That comes from Ralph. So, I mean, they did have, there was some depth to those characters, but the main hunter, rather than his skinners, seemed to be sort of an unredeemable figure.
When they first focus, nobody gets the jump on Frank Nesbitt or some line like that. And then the narrator's like, Frank Nesbitt told everybody about a guy riding a buffalo. Yeah. And then it's like in the saloon, he's like, there's a guy riding a buffalo. And then he goes up to the bar and he's like, there's a guy riding a buffalo. We saw him 2 days from here.
Well, there's also these nuggets in there that you wonder, like, were they going to do something else? Because the camera, when he rides the buffalo into the saloon, the camera makes a point to show you that it knocks over the stove. And we were just waiting for the saloon to go up in flames, and then there was really no point for the camera.
That would be too much plot for this.
Yeah. There's also a point where I do wonder if it was a stuffed buffalo head that knocks over the card table in that scene because it was just a weird cutaway.
Yeah.
Also odd, like Frank Nesbitt and the boys are bad people, and Buffalo Jones concentrates 90% of the gunfight on the auxiliary character, and Frank Nesbitt never gets a shot off.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, okay.
It also seemed...
That was the only flaw I found in the film.
Well, I think my favorite part of the film was that they ordered gin and tonics. A classic frontier drink. Give me that watch. We're getting a couple gin and tonics. And then the fact that they had sort of a dual ending where they filmed the saloon shootout, and then they're like, it shouldn't end here. Why don't we just have one of these guys not be here?
The narrator's like, as my dad told it.
And then the buffalo can kill him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, man, the chase scene at the end goes, it's
phenomenal.
It's great. I would watch this again.
It takes that mule a little while to get going, though. Like the first 2 minutes of the chase, the mule just seems to be
there's an interesting deal there, too. Where'd the mule come from? No, did they steal the mule from the wagon train, I guess? But no saddle.
Yeah.
Again, I think you're asking too many questions for the plot.
I thought it was very strange that they didn't take the wagon itself, because their primary motivation in all this was just logistics. They wanted to be able to transport more hides. And so they kill this
such
family.
A prolific hide hunter.
And then they leave the wagon there. But like the reason that they first tangle up with Buffalo Jones is because he looks at the buffalo and he says, boy, that could carry a lot of stuff. Let's kill that guy and take his mode of transportation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the whole time, the costumes, I just kept thinking I was watching like a Jethro Tull documentary. It was just like, I thought it was like, if you tamed back the fringe just a little bit and added like a feather in the hair, we're at Woodstock all of a sudden.
Well, no, I mean, or they're in Easy Rider.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's
the 1970s wasn't that much different from the 1870s, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, the fashion was
people wore the same kind of shit.
It all comes back.
Long hair, dirty, like...
Yeah. I thought that Buffalo Jones really had a very striking resemblance to like 1970s, portrayals of Jesus. The long hair, the beard, and he's just always sort of has this contemplative look on his face. There was a lot to unpack here.
There was. Real buffalo being shot.
Yes.
And definitely real dogs being kicked. And definitely a real mountain lion getting punched in the face.
Yeah, that first buffalo that gets shot in the neck.
Yeah.
I read somewhere someone claimed that they had trained them to fall when
That's
they were
not
hit
true
with rubber bullets, but I
don't think so, man.
That's not true.
I have no doubt.
It would be
that those
interesting
things died.
to find out when Hollywood really started cracking down on that stuff, because like animals got
gooned out,
shot, and like
those big stampede scenes.
Oh, yeah.
Like somebody's breaking a leg somewhere.
Yeah, a lot of horses get killed in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Boy, thanks for indulging me and taking an hour and 28 minutes of your time to review that film, because that just tickled me to death.
Oh, again, I'd watch that over Escanaba in the Moonlight.
And thanks to our audience for the recommendation. That one did come to our inbox as a suggested film for discussion. So thanks very much for that. It was just a real pleasure. Phil, I think that's about time for today, but do we have any more items from the chat that you'd like to share?
We've got a few. Not a whole lot came in. John's just asking a general bow question. What bows did you all guys use this year, if any? And are you excited for any new ones?
A 6mm Creedmoor.
I got a Rob Lee bow out of Texas, a new recurve that is absolutely badass. I love it. It's the first new bow I've had in a long time. Really, really awesome bow. And I'm not looking for another one.
Yeah, I can't add anything to that.
Great. Mountain Bucks is asking if you've ever eaten bobcat and what's better, mountain lion or bobcat?
I have had mountain lion tacos a couple of times. And yeah, I mean it's good.
I don't think I've eaten bobcat.
I have. It's very similar.
Yeah.
I think you get the right lion, it's gonna be a little fattier.
Yeah, and then you just have more to work with. You know, like those loins and stuff on these animals have a lot more sinew, and so
yeah, you probably get more meat off of a wild turkey gobbler than you'd get off of a bobcat.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Cal, what's your beer of choice?
You know,
there's some typos in this question, so I'm kind of just making an assumption that that's what you're asking.
Cal likes
right?
Cal like beer or lights of your choice.
Right now, there always used to be like all these good seasonal dark beers that come out around Christmas time, and for whatever reason, and here in Los Angeles, cultural mecca, you can't get any of them. So we found
that's the only part of the war on Christmas that's succeeding.
Yeah, Phil found Jubal Ale, and that's good stuff. Ninkasi had Slayer.
Oh yeah,
Slayer
there was some
a good
drama.
beer.
So Ninkasi used to distribute to Southwest Montana, and then there was some distribution war happening, and someone pissed someone off, and then they stopped distributing Ninkasi out here. It was a bummer.
Huh. Slayer was good stuff. So I like
Rainier.
Both ends of the spectrum. Love Rainier when it's hot and you just want a refreshing, very light generic lager. But other than that, it's got to have some flavor, like a really good Pilsner. Or get into the dark beers.
Got a 6-pack of the Bavik Super Pills at
the
home.
Bavik Super Pills.
Yeah,
that's good stuff.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Yep.
And then just for the freaks out there, another plug for the MeatEater Dungeons and Dragons session. I'm saying this on record. It will happen in 2025. I don't know if you will ever see it.
It might not be official.
No, it will not be official. It will probably be me in Spencer's kitchen. Hopefully Randall's there and a couple other people.
When you asked me to join your dungeon, or whatever it's called, I did say yes.
You did.
I preface that with the caveat that I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm down.
Yeah, and if any of you know any sort of outdoor, like hunting, animal tracking centered one-shots, let me know, because I'm probably not going to write my own, because I'm lazy and not that good. So hit me up.
I'm going to ask you to explain one-shots for me once we sign off here.
Yes.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think that's all we got for questions.
Well,
we're already running a little long here.
Yeah, it was a meaty episode. Before we go, I would like to make a couple of quick announcements. We are, in fact, going to do a Great American Venison Jerky competition, and we will have more details for you in the new year. In the meantime, start perfecting your venison jerky recipes, and thanks to everyone who already emailed us about their jerky. The inbox has been overwhelmed with interest from prospective contestants, and we appreciate your enthusiasm. Also, as we mentioned last week, we will be pre-recording episodes for the holiday break, and we would like to address listener questions. So if you have a burning hunting and fishing question that you'd like the crew to answer, send it along to radio@themeateater.com. That's radio@themeateater.com. And looking forward to recording that episode. It should be a fun little hour of discussion. With that, I'll just remind you to get those holiday orders in quickly so your gifts arrive in time for Christmas. Keep an eye out for a restock of the Fucked Up Old Shitters calendar, and we'll sign off from Bozeman, Montana. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.